Hello, my name is Cara. I'm the founder and CEO of State of Unity, and we exist to help people travel with purpose and live with adventure. Recently, I visited the Grand Canyon, Zion, Antelope Canyon, and a lot of other places out west in the United States, and there is a lot to see, a lot to do, and an overwhelming amount of information out there. So what I wanted to do was put together, a recap of my experience and things that I would do differently, things that I really enjoyed, maybe some things that I feel like I missed out on, basically just to give my view in hopes that whoever goes ahead of me will not have to make any of the mistakes that I made. Not that I feel like I made mistakes, but there's a few things that I would have done differently. So without further ado, why don't I go ahead and share those with you? First of all, an overwhelming bit can be where to fly into. There are tons of little towns around the Grand Canyon and Zion, and almost every one of them has their own airport. So picking out that alone was a little bit of a process for me. The bigger airports are, of course, Las Vegas and Phoenix, and most likely any other smaller airport you fly into, you'll have to catch a transition. What's the name for that? You'll have a layover in one of those cities and have to continue on to whatever other town you decide to fly into. So I have been to Vegas and I have been to Phoenix. So for me personally, I didn't feel a need to spend time in either of those places. So what I did was booked a flight to Flagstaff that went through Phoenix. This worked out really well for me. I was able to rent a car there and get around easily. One thing I will say is that the rental car cost was probably about the same as everything else combined. Hopefully that changes over the next couple months or so, but yeah, wasn't expecting that. So so after flying into Flagstaff, I was really happy with it. There is a little downtown area that's very walkable. There's tons of out gear stores, so if you wanted to pick up a couple more things for hiking or camping or just general outdoorsy stuff, they have it. There was a massive variety of restaurants, vegan, Thai, burger places, pizza, amazing coffee shops, so many coffee shops. I tried to stop at as many of those as I could. I brought some coffee home with me. A lot of them are even working stations, so they encourage you to actually stay as long as you'd like. They have tons of outlets and really cool, unique drinks. I had like a lavender tea latte at one place, and what I'll do is try to look up, I know I have saved somewhere, the names of the places that I went to and post those in the show notes for you. I also had the best curry of my life at one of popular Thai restaurant there in downtown Flagstaff, so I'll be sure to share that as well. There's also a lot of grocery stores, which was nice because fortunately I was forewarned from another traveler who was out in the Grand Canyon a week or two before I was that there are not a lot of restaurant options when you get to the Grand Canyon or even on your way there. And thank God he shared that with me because I don't think I saw a single one aside from what was inside the park. So I stopped at Whole Foods and picked up about 2 days worth of food that I could eat on the trail that wouldn't go bad. A lot of meatless protein options, fruits, stuff like that, oatmeal, things that would give me energy, keep me feeling good and clean, and not get nasty if they are out in the sun. The hotel quality in Flagstaff, I will say, I didn't see a lot of stellar options, more or less about 3 stars, even with Airbnb. Not a lot of great options, and I don't know if that's just because I was booking so close to my travel dates or there's just not a high level of opportunity there. So yeah, I will say if you're looking for a more boutique feel, they might not have it. If anyone did see it there, feel free to comment, but I didn't come across anything that seemed to be, maybe there was one or two that were a little bit nicer, but yeah, I planned everything pretty close to my travel dates within a month, so there really wasn't a ton of options out there. What I did is I stayed about 2 hours outside of the park. I found an Airbnb in Tucson, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it was about an hour outside of the south park entrance of the Grand Canyon, and it was literally a trailer park down a gravel road that is off the highway that goes from Flagstaff to the Grand Canyon. That was pretty much the only option, and I wanted to be close to the park so I could get in right when it opened, because all you hear is how busy and overcrowded they are, and because of COVID, they do have capacity on the parks, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to get in. And then I also love doing sunrise hikes, so I wanted to be there early so that I could be down in the canyon for the sunrise. The place that I stayed was actually, I mean, it was literally just a place to stay, but it was nice. I did feel safe when I was inside. Outside, I mean, you're in a strange trailer park and there is nothing else to see for miles, so didn't feel super great being outside, but didn't spend any time out there. So I was able to wake up in the morning and head into the Grand Canyon and do some really amazing hikes. Obviously, that's something that should stay on everybody's list. It is one of the wonders of the world, and it's really cool being there and seeing people from all over the world visiting the United States and our national parks just like we do overseas. And it kind of helps me appreciate a little bit more just the land where we live, and that we have so many cool things right in our backyard. So it was really fun taking time to explore around the United States a little bit, which, to be honest, I really don't do that often outside of my own backyard of Florida and Georgia. I was very thankful that I had the food that I had picked up from the grocery store, because there was a grocery store inside the canyon and supposedly a restaurant or two. I struggled to find them. The grocery store, you know, obviously everything is double or triple the cost of what you would pay in a normal grocery store. So it just kind of sucks. You know, you're spending a lot of money on the car and the hotels and eating nice meals when you have the opportunity. So to spend, you know, exorbitant rates on whatever a random snack is from a grocery store, it's just not that much fun. So I was happy that I had prepared accordingly and didn't have to worry too much about anything else once I was in there, aside from just enjoying the park, which was also nice that, you know, you don't have to spend time hunting around for food. You can just enjoy the day and sightsee as you want to. After the Grand Canyon, I then headed northeast to Page, Arizona, and this is where the famous Horseshoe Bend is. It's where the Narrows are, and Slot Canyons, Antelope Canyon, Lake Powell is there. So this pains me. It sounds like there's so much to do and see in Page, and honestly, of everything that I did on this trip, it was the one place that I would have been okay not going to. And I will say the canyon, Antelope Canyon, was beautiful. The tour agency that I used was disappointing. So you can't just go into the Antelope Canyons. You have to hire a guide because they're owned by the tribes out there. So I guess maybe I should have looked into what each tour looks like more, read more reviews. This one looked like a good option, and I guess I didn't realize that there'd be much of a difference, honestly. So The experience felt like a Instagram tour. We went into the canyon. They would tell you where to stand for your photos, and everyone would get in their line. They'd do their photos, and then you'd go to the next photo op, and it went on like that for, I think the whole tour was maybe an hour and a half. And it was $50 a person, and she spent maybe 2 minutes talking about the history of the land, her culture, the tribes, and what life is like. And to me, that's the part that I really enjoy hearing about. I care a lot less about the right angle for my Instagram feed, which you might be able to tell if you follow me on Instagram. But that was really disappointing. However, when I got back home and I was talking to a friend that was just out there, they loved their experience in Antelope Canyon. They were talking about the opportunity to do rock climbing and all kinds of cool stuff. So there are better tours out there. So make sure you do your homework and pick the one that's right for you. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. So I was left feeling a bit sad about that experience. And then just a quick note on Horseshoe Bend, which, again, the vastness of the land out there is just mind-bending. There's just nothing but rocks and canyons for as far as you can see in any direction. And Horseshoe Bend is one of those locations where you get a really good viewpoint of that. And I think the water was pretty low when we were there, and I went in midday, so I guess the sunlighting was just regular sunlight. It wasn't quite as impactful as what I was hoping. So yeah, given the other things that I saw, like for example, Zion was the next spot, and I felt like I missed out in Zion. I would have easily traded another day in Zion and not visited Page, but it is what it is. So I will say Page did have a good variety of restaurant options. There was a few nicer places, a lot of Mexican places, and they have obviously the Colorado River that runs through there from Lake Powell and Horseshoe Bend, so some of them overlook the water or the city. So the dining options were great. The hotel options, again, maybe 3 stars at best, at least from what I saw. And that might have been due to availability, but wasn't great. And from Page to Zion, that was roughly a 2-hour drive. Again, started off early in the morning, so there's no traffic. There's nothing out there except for deer and rocks. And driving into Zion is amazing. It just takes your breath away. The rocks and the vegetation and the cliff drops, it was just beautiful. And I went in November, so the leaves were still changing on the trees, and so you have these massive canyons with this red rock, and then down in the valley is green with yellow trees and the road winding in between it. It was beautiful. The hikes were challenging, they were crowded, but totally worth it. Like I said, I really wish I would have had at least one more day there, if not 2, because I feel like I only saw maybe like an 1/8 of the whole park. And it was so gorgeous. So that's something, if I were to go back and do it again, I would spend more time in Zion. And they did have restaurants there. The food was good, actually. Tons of gift shops. So just a lot to do and see there. It's easy to get around. They have buses that run around the park, so it's very well organized. I went on a Saturday, and I've heard that during the week it's not nearly as crowded. So if possible, I would avoid the weekends and go during the week so you can enjoy nature without having to wait in lines to go on the trails, which is what I got to do. But it does make it a little bit more fun, just enjoying people's commentary. Some of the trails, Angel's Landing is probably the most popular one they have there, and it is not for the faint of heart or people with a fear of heights. So it was kind of fun just seeing people encourage each other along the trail, and the other people, like the daredevils that aren't afraid at all, and then people like myself that are a little in the middle, where you have just this insane drop down on one side and strangers running past you on the other side, and you're realizing you're putting a lot of trust in these people not to trip over their own feet. It was a cool experience. Like I said, Zion, can't miss it. The next place that we went to was Bryce Canyon. It was maybe 2 hours, between an hour and I think about an hour and a half from Zion, which, outside of Zion, they have the coolest overstay option. So I actually found, and there's a couple of these out there, but what they do is they converted old wagons into like places to stay. So there's this all new probably, like the old covered wagon that they would use on the trail, and they have a king bed in the back of it, and then 2 bunk beds on either side with an aisle to walk through, and a little stove with I think like gas fire, so not real fire where you have to add wood or anything. You just flip the switch and it comes on, and then another little heater in there. Again, it was November, so it got a little cold overnight, but let me tell you, the stars out there and just staying in this really cool covered wagon in the middle of the mountains was such a fun, unique experience. Definitely recommend doing something cool like that when you're out there. They have teepees, which November not available, but if you go in the warmer season, you could do that. They have tons of little cabins, so a lot of really unique overnight options there. So definitely check out your options and find something that's just a little different and fun, because why not? And then, so from there I went to Bryce, which was about an hour and a half drive. This was probably the most difficult we ever had in finding food, because their season ends in October, and there's one little strip of a town outside of Bryce Canyon, and then another town sort of over a mountain, neither of which had anything open. Also, it was a Sunday, and there's a lot of Mormons in Utah. Bryce is in Utah, not Arizona. So a big part of the culture there doesn't do business on Sundays. So that, plus the fact that we were in the off season, we finally ended up finding one place that was open, and they had a buffet breakfast. And let me tell you, we made good work of that. So we ended up having the buffet breakfast, which was, I think it was like $12. So really affordable. It was just frustrating because what we learned was Google Maps does not update hours for seasonal places. So many of the places that we went to in Bryce, and honestly everywhere else too, ran into this issue where it would say these places were open, and then you get there and there's a sign on the door that says closed for the season or closed for COVID or whatever. So maybe be careful driving too far for a restaurant, or call ahead if you can. Might save yourself a lot of drive time and a little bit of hanger. Bryce Canyon itself is gorgeous. What's really cool is that, all these places, it's a lot of rock, but they're all very different and very unique. So it was cool to see the variety between them all, and just how things change and shift as you move along the country. Bryce the stone there was wild. Like, you could just touch it and kind of scratch at it and it would flake off. So the fact that it's still these tall peaks standing, I don't know how it stays that way and how it hasn't just crumbled away by now, but it's something that is changing and shifting every year. They say mostly due to the freezing of water and ice on these rocks, and then when it melts, it creates these new formations. So it was cool to hike inside of there. The park itself it was perfect for the one day that we had. I wouldn't do more than a day there, I don't think. It didn't seem like there was that much more to see. There was really only maybe 2 or 3 main trails, unless you're doing overnight hikes, which in that case, some of the trails were pretty lengthy and you could go out and probably see and do a lot more. But if you're just out there for the day, a day's perfect. And if you're at Zion, I would say make the drive. It's not that far, an hour and a half roughly, and definitely worth it just to see the variety in the landscape. So to recap, I would absolutely do it again. I would still stay in Flagstaff. I would probably just stay in Flagstaff and make that my central point, and then just do day trips each day. Aside from Zion, I would stay overnight in that area just because, again, there's so many cool options, and it doesn't really make sense to drive all the way up there from Flagstaff and then go back the next day. So I think that would be a great itinerary for somebody who wanted to make the most of their trip. Just make sure you do your research. Always have snacks in stow, and bring good hiking shoes and lots of layers, because it can be 30 degrees 1 minute, 50 degrees the next, and 70 degrees a minute later. All in all, though, it was gorgeous. I really enjoyed getting into some of the United States that I have not seen, but I've heard so much about. It was cool to see how many people are out there enjoying the parks and how popular this type of activity is. It makes me really happy. Hopefully, if you haven't been already, you have plans to go soon. I plan on putting a trip together for anyone who would like to join me this summer. So would love to see you out there. If you have gone and you have other tips, please leave them down below. I would love to hear what other people's experiences were like. And I also plan to keep doing these little videos for other places that I've traveled, because I do find them helpful when I watch them from other people. And hopefully you will find this helpful as well. Thanks so much. Have a great day.